Hi, my name is Lori Kirkpatrick, and I want to speak to you about the teacher evaluation system that we use in Dallas ISD called the Teacher Excellence Initiative, or TEI. TEI was implemented when my daughter, who is now a third grader, started in DISD. Since then, we've turned over 10,000 teachers in our district. There are a multitude of cautionary statements from education researchers about value-added models, or VAMs, for high-stakes decision-making. TEI incorporates a VAM. VAMs are an attempt to determine a teacher's contribution to their students' learning as captured by standardized tests. DISD often justifies its use of TEI by citing the MET project. That was a study funded by the Gates Foundation to examine teacher effectiveness measures. Even the MET researchers noted, of course, the degree of bias or the amount of error could also worsen as the measures are implemented for high-stakes purposes. In 2015, the Gates Foundation backed out of funding the Hillsborough County School District's teacher evaluation system, which was comprised of a VAM system, due to poor results and costs reported to be over $180 million. Hillsborough County was one of the school districts in the MET project. The National Education Policy Center peer-reviewed the MET project, and they noted, its results do not settle disagreements about what makes an effective teacher and offer little guidance about how to design real-world teacher evaluation systems. The following organizations have all publicly released statements cautioning against using VAM for high stakes: the American Statistical Association, the American Educational Research Association, the National Association of Secondary School Principals, the Economic Policy Institute. I am submitting to you in the packet statements by Dallas ISD teachers regarding TEI. I am also, with the permission of the publishing company, the University of Chicago Press, providing you with a copy of Chapter 9 titled Evaluating Teachers. As a parent, taxpayer, and concerned community member, I requested the raw data regarding TEI from Dallas ISD, the VAM algorithms, and I attempted to attend a TEI education session conducted by the district. I've been denied on all fronts. I find it concerning that a system purported to be based on statistical data is guarded in secrecy, has not been peer-reviewed, lacks transparent financial expense documentation. So I caution and I encourage you to heed the cautionary warnings of many experts and not provide funding nor seek to implement TEI for high-stakes use. Experimentation with our children can result in unintended consequences that are detrimental to an entire generation of Texans. When I arrived here at 9 o'clock this morning, you Chairman, asked us to give sort of our best 2 points. And I think listening today to all of this testimony, we're obviously in a huge bind to find money. And so I wonder if you guys will have the courage to face the elephant in the room, which is standardized testing, which TEI is in part based on. The billions of dollars that are spent on that, we could be funding true public education.
And how do you answer my question about if we give everybody a 3% raise, why do we think something's going to be different? And if we don't use standardized testing to test that, how would we ever be able to tell?
If we don't use standardized testing to determine how to give a teacher a raise?
No, if we don't understand, in other words, public finance being what it is, the money's got to come from somebody. It's got to come from people. It's got to come from one program or another. Before we go to people and say, we'd like more of your money, they're going to say, what do I get for it? And how do we tell them, look, we asked you for a bunch more money, we gave it to the schools, and how do we prove to them you got something for it? Teachers will be happier, janitors happier, school boards happier, a lot of people happier, but they're not the majority of the people. They're certainly paying their share of taxes, and they're certainly the ones that bear the brunt of teaching our kids. But how do we tell the people in general, if we don't look at standardized testing at all, how do we tell them?
So I'm not suggesting, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I'm not suggesting we don't use standardized testing at all. I'm suggesting we don't use standardized testing to the extent that we do. We completely overutilize standardized testing. And I am suggesting that standardized testing, as it was developed, we were all cautioned by those folks that it's not intended to be used for high-stakes measures. We are now using standardized testing to do things, make decisions, determine things it was never intended to do. And, you know, I don't know that the numbers you look them up and they're all over the map, but suffice it to say billions of dollars in this state on standardized testing. And what could we be doing with that? It sounds like we could be funding some solid public education, dyslexia programs, special education programs, etc.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of those today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Ms. Martin.
Hi, I appreciate your testimony. As a public school teacher right now, just earlier I opened up my email, got distracted, and happened to see that I was reminded that we have some testing this week. So if we want to extend this meeting a little longer, that would be good. I'm free to stay in Austin. But yeah, so I'll be returning home to take care of some of that. So I actually do sympathize with, you know, your opinion on this. But my question is, I'm also on the outcomes working group. And so my question for you is, how would you suggest that we measure outcomes if we don't use standardized testing? And, you know, are you opposed to measuring outcomes and maybe growth with students in order to give teachers incentives?
So, you know, what I read, what I understand from the people that I interact with, standardized testing absolutely has a purpose. We're just misusing it. So no, I'm not opposed to using standardized testing. In terms of curriculum development and professional development and guidance for those that are actually teaching, I think they say that it can be quite valuable. It's just that, for instance, you know, we test when they come into school. We're testing, for instance, for TEI, we're testing their English language because we're going to use that as a variable. Are they fluent in the English language? You know, we're testing their you know, we call it ACP. We test, you know, where are they now? This first semester, where are they the second semester? We do mock testing. We test prior to the STAR. We test for the STAR. I mean, it's just nonstop. It costs a lot of money to do that, you know, and so that could significantly be curbed, in my humble opinion, and free up quite a few resources and get away from producing test takers. I would like my daughter to learn how to critically think, not just come home for 6 weeks every night before Christmas with a mock standardized test, practicing these types of questions and practicing a bubble sheet. I don't find that useful.
Is it? Representative Bernal.
Thank you, Chair. I want to make sure I understand fully. I understand high-stakes testing from the student's point of view, but are you saying that for these purposes it might be better to use these exams more of as a diagnostic to measure a student's progress as opposed to using how many students in any given teacher's classroom pass the exam?
Yeah, using it for progress, to guide instruction,
right,
to help develop curriculum, allow the teacher to help tweak his or her you know, methods, yes. But using it to determine whether or not a school is a failing school or whether or not a teacher is an effective teacher or an ineffective teacher and is thus going to get a raise this year or not, or a demotion or not.
What I would like your help in the future, certainly not at this moment, but one of the things that I've been having a really hard time with in my own district is getting high quality teachers to stay at the most challenged schools, including the schools that I went to. And one of the things that Dallas seemingly has been able to do, what they've told us they've been able to do, and I have no reason to doubt them, is that they had, I think, 7 IR schools, and after implementing this program, were able to turn around 6 of them in 1 year, which is something that we've not been able to do. And so if there's a way to do that that doesn't run afoul of the principles you've laid out, I'd like to know what it is, because my fear is walking away from an opportunity like that because we haven't been able to crack the code, but also not doing it in a way that's unfair to teachers. But I'm just, I worry that we might be close to identifying something that works and then finding an element of it that's flawed. And I'd rather fix the element and make it fair, but not at the cost of abandoning something that might produce outcomes that we've not been able to nail down, at least in this state, for a very long time.
Sure, yeah. So what you're talking about is the ACE program, the Accelerated Campus Excellence Program. And though that seems to get tied to TEI,
Yeah.
It's not necessarily anything that you couldn't have without a TEI. I mean, an ACE program is sending in, your best folks,
Right.
and having them work longer days. You pay them more money. You provide them more help. You provide them more resources. You provide more wraparound services. So it's not that much different than the system that DISD already had, which is ISN, I think is what it was
Let me
called.
interrupt you just for a second here. I'm so sorry. We've been through 1/5 of the list of public testifying people.
Yeah,
It's taken us 2 hours. That means it will take 8 more hours, which, given that it's 5:30 now, is 1:30 in the morning. So let me beg you, keep your answers short. We've heard extensively about ACE, so all the commission members are familiar with it.
We can follow up after this.
Yeah.
But your math is impressive, Chairman. That's the first time I've seen a judicial person do math in their head. Congratulations.
So, yeah. So I just ACE is nothing that no one. ACE is something anyone can have without a TEI. It's doing those basic things like a community school would do to turn around schools. DISD turned around even more schools that were on IR prior to ACE with their internal ISN Intensive Support Network program.